In the shadows of the trial is the ongoing conversation about policing in America, particularly when it comes to black and brown bodies. Now, law enforcement and may have a hand in future elections. Here's how and why. Republican lawmakers in multiple states are proposing election police units to investigate, you got it, voter fraud. A move that would favor former President Donald Trump's claim that the 2020 presidential election was illegitimate, despite several reports debunking that stance. A new article on the Daily Beast suggests that the move parallels with the KKK, who created their own election police to push their own agenda. All right, so joining us now, we have an author to help us with this panel, help us break it down. His name is Barrett Holmes Pitner. He's a writer. He's also a political strategist, and he teaches journalism at George Washington University. Always a pleasure, Barrett. We also have Barak Lurie. He's also a political strategist and an author. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on BNC Live. So, Barrett, we'll start with you on the bottom there. When you call the KKK, right, the original election police, what are you saying? And tell us more about that.
Well, yeah, if you just look at American history around Reconstruction, a lot of the people who were the police officers and the law enforcement in the South when slavery was legal, they formed the Ku Klux Klan. And during this era of Reconstruction, it was normal for the KKK to have, government officials, high-ranking members of the South, police officers to also be like covertly in the KKK. And so this narrative that we have that like the Ku Klux Klan was like a ragtag bunch of unimportant people. That's never been the status quo in the South. And so when we're looking at, and a key thing when you think about Reconstruction is that the KKK was created to help overturn elections and terrorize people. So it wasn't just, violence. There was an explicit purpose to turn the South back to how it was before the Civil War. They even the movement was called the Redeemers because they wanted to redeem the South. And so policing people of color, having like covert and overt terrorism and law enforcement and police was the norm. And this is just part of American history. And we need to be skeptical because once we start looking at Jim Crow, we see people who were members of the Ku Klux Klan, people who were overtly racist, were also police officers, had positions to, keep the peace. And that also resulted into limiting African American engagement and participation in our democracy. So there should just be a natural skepticism whenever people are looking about adding police to to voting, especially in the South. And this narrative of how it functions clearly derives once Black people had the access to the vote, and that's when the KKK and other forms of like Southern law enforcement were working to suppress Black voters.
All right, Barak, you wanted my attention. You got it, buddy. There's been a lot of discussion over voting rights, right, and protecting the legitimacy of our election process. After hearing Barrett's stance and seeing the laws being changed in several states, which you have said on this show that you support, do you think the election process has ever been fair to Black and brown voters?
Oh, wow. It's a loaded
It's a
question a bit,
loaded
but I
question.
do think that the elections definitely have been very fair, especially in the past decades. Look, we've had come a long way in terms of fairness for all minorities, not just Black and brown, for Jews, for women, of course. Everyone has really gotten a fair shake at this point. I think you're going to be very hard pressed to show that minorities of any kind, Black or otherwise, have somehow been preempted or prevented from voting in these past elections in the past 30, 40 years. Very correct that the KKK is a monstrous enterprises, and they did horrific things, and they did not just stilt people from voting, but of course did horrific lynchings and otherwise. So let's make that very clear that the KKK is a bad enterprise, and nobody wants that repeated. But the fact that he's saying that somehow that harkens to the notion of a KKK police for voting, um, you know, you might as well say, well, we shouldn't have police at all because the word police was used in the KKK. This is like when people say that Hitler was a vegetarian. He wasn't, by the way, but therefore all vegetarians are like Hitler. It's a silly and inappropriate negative correlation that just does not work for me. So the
All right.
KKK was a monstrous enterprise indeed. And let me just say one thing to add the point. That's a Democrat party. Let's make this very clear. The KKK was the military wing of the Democrat Party. They were the party of Bull Connor, of segregation, of George Wallace, of Jim Crow, and even the Trail of Tears for that matter. So I don't know that you really want to say that somehow This is the Republican Party. This is the Democrat Party speaking loud and clear. So they have the history, not the Republicans.
All right. It's all you, Barrett. I heard that. I heard that. Let us
Yeah,
hear. Let us
like
see you say it.
there's just I have to disagree with pretty much everything Barak said, because if you look at the article, when I'm talking about the past, I say what the political parties were. We're talking about conservatives, and when we're talking about the South, we're talking about the South and the South's history of policing and its relationship to Black voters. And historically, that policing, when we start looking at when it started to police Black voters, was when we were able to vote, and that had a correlation with policing and the Ku Klux Klan. This is just the history. And we all know that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party flipped in the 1960s. Like, my father is from
No,
Alabama.
they didn't.
When his
No, they
family,
didn't. That's nonsense.
oh, hey, I'm still talking.
Nope.
I'm still talking.
Let him finish.
My family's from Alabama, and when my parents were growing up, they were Republican because those were the people who were emancipated and helped emancipate Black people. But in the 60s happened when it was trying to us to get our votes back from the 1860s that we won via the Civil War and Reconstruction. We all flipped because we knew the party that was fighting for our rights. That's how it's been in the South. And we're talking about the South coming up with laws to, oh, and also one thing that we're talking about when it comes to voting, there's this narrative of all this progress we've had over the last 30, 40 years, and I'm not going to discredit that. But much of that progress is due to the laws that were put in place in the 1960s, including pre-clearance, and making sure that areas in the South didn't go back to the status quo that they had during Jim Crow, where they would have laws that didn't have overtly racist language, but would find a way at chipping away at the franchise of African Americans. Once pre-clearance has come into play, there has been a slew of laws throughout the South and the U.S. that has chipped away at the franchise of African Americans, put a little obstacle here, a little obstacle there, and now we're waking up and we see governors in Florida and Georgia, states who have had a large population of African Americans at the beginning of the country, talking about the necessity of election police to police an election that there hasn't been any criminality or fraud that we can document. These are all falsified rumors. And so this is very dangerous territory. And as someone whose family is from the South, who's been in the South for hundreds of years, there's a clear historical precedent to what we're talking about, and we all need to be aware of it so that we protect the rights and sustain the progress that we've been making since the 1960s.
All right, Barak, I want you to respond, but
Okay,
you
so
got to do it quick because we got to pay some bills. I got to take a
all right,
break. So quickly.
all right, that's fine. So quickly, the argument that somehow that we absolutely need this new election law, as if somehow this is the default, that fails completely, because it was the Democrats who say that the 2020 election was the most perfect and complete and most fair election in history. So all of a sudden now we need to have this new complete bill. Otherwise, we won't be able to save our democracy. So you can't have it both ways. Secondly, with regard to this flipping thing that Barrett was talking about, that is absolutely false. That has been debunked time and time again. You know, what are you supposed to believe? That somehow the Democrats and Republicans got together and say, hey, let's flip. We'll be the racists now and you guys will be the good guys now. That's garbage. There's been no evidence of that whatsoever. The fact is the Democrat Party has tried to advance. They saw that they were weakening in the 60s and they were losing. And Lyndon Johnson in particular decided that he was going to champion the civil rights bill after having decided not to support it whatsoever. And this is the way he was going to get the Black vote for 200 years to come. And he used rather salacious words to describe the Blacks at that point. So that's just history right there. And I think you know it.
All right. Gloves coming off,
That's not history.
pleasantries going out the window. Gentlemen, stay with us. It's a very heated conversation. We want to continue it after the break, so stay with us. You're watching BNC Live. Welcome back to BNC Live. If you're just joining us, you missed a really, really heated but great debate before the commercial. We're going to continue that conversation with our panel. We're going to welcome back Barrett Holmes Pitner. He's a political strategist. He's also a writer. He's also a teacher of journalism at the George Washington University. And we also have with us Barak Lurie. He's also a political strategist and author as well. Gentlemen, thank you. All right. So, Barrett, you actually wanted to respond to Barak. I'm going to let you do that.
Yeah, like, the history is very clear that if you look at American history, clearly both political parties from the beginning weren't fond of African people in the country as getting equal representation. That's pretty that's clear. But when we're talking about the 1960s, it's pretty obvious that one party was the one that was for civil rights. And that party, African Americans worked together to do voting rights, civil rights, And this has been a narrative that the Democratic Party has been continuing since the 1960s. A lot of the people in the South that were Democrats at that time who were who were overt racists, they left and they joined the Republican Party. That's just a fact. That's not saying that like Republicans today are racist or anything like that. But the history is this shift happened, and the Republicans started in the 1840s as part of the abolitionists, and over time, about 100 years, the values shifted. But the narrative of talking about Democrats in the 1860s and acting that they're the same thing as Democrats in the 19 and 2020, that just doesn't make any sense. We're talking about people that are working to empower people of color and political parties who historically haven't been doing that. And that's really the conversation. It's not the name of the party that's the most important. It's the work that they're trying to do. And the Democrats right now are trying to pass voting rights that would bring back protections that we created when we worked with Democrats in the 1960s. And this is just objective. And so I think the narrative that the Democrats and the Republicans today are the same as they were in the 1800s is just completely absurd. And I'm astounded that people still articulate that.
All right, Barak, you want to respond?
Okay, so a couple of things there. First of all, I will agree with Barrett, of course, that the Democrat Party today is very different. The people who vote Democrat today, of course, they perceive themselves that they are not racist, that they are not interested in demonizing anybody. So that's very fair. But the fact is that the Republicans are the ones, but at the same time, he wants to argue that the Republicans have somehow flipped. Now they're the party of racism. Now they're the party of segregation. Now
I
they're the
didn't say
party
that.
of somehow. Okay, let me finish, please. So that is the ultimate implication. Look, the problem that you have with this is that you can't really argue that because maybe a couple of racists decided to vote Republican, maybe a couple of racists decided to vote Democrat. That's not something that you can generalize from. It's just a wrong way to argue the point. Fact is, the Republicans have always been the party against slavery, the party against segregation, the party for voting rights. It was Eisenhower who advanced the first civil rights bills. They were the ones that were there. The Democrats fought bitterly in the 50s about that. It was only in 1964 that Lyndon Johnson, when he saw that we would be politically expedient to back the new civil rights law, that was the one that became the famous one all of a sudden, and history was completely forgotten. It was also Eisenhower who was the one who broke up the segregation and forced the desegregation in the schools, as we saw famously. So let's make it very clear. You cannot have this Eisenhower administration and the Republicans before him who actively sought not only the end of slavery, but the end of segregation, and then somehow argue that they were for segregation now. So it just doesn't fly with me. The last point about
Yeah,
that
but see,
is
All right, Barrett.
that
Barak,
last
let
point.
me have Barrett,
Last point.
because we're losing time. So you got to briefly wrap it so we can have Barat, respond. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Barrett,
So,
thank you.
so like
Sorry.
here's the thing. I'm not saying that any party has been 100% one thing or another thing for the entirety of America, but the shift that happened in the 1960s is pretty evident, and we need to talk about how that shift impacts the present. Like I said, my family's from Alabama, and in the 1950s, they were Republicans because of Eisenhower, all that kind of stuff. But when it came to voting rights and doing stuff that impacted African Americans in the present, and the commitment to do that following the 1960s, the Democratic Party has been that party. And so we just need to talk about the shift that's obvious that we've seen. That doesn't mean that Republicans haven't done things beneficial to people of color prior to the 1950s, but we're talking about 2020, and we're talking about voting rights legislation right now. We're talking about election police right now. We're talking about echoes of the past that are really troubling, that if we don't recognize and have an objective view of our history, will harm people of color to a very severe degree. And we need to have that conversation, and not some narrative about like Republicans always being good or Democrats always being good. It's like, who's trying to do good right now, and what's the party's agenda, and what have they been doing for the last 50 years? That's the conversation. That's it.
All right, Barak.
Okay, so that's fine, and I appreciate that.
I
The one
want to
thing I
ask
will
you.
say though is that
Okay, I'm going to let you finish. You all are just dominating this debate here. I'm not mad at it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Barak.
all right. Well, look, I appreciate very much that the Democratic Party now is perceived to be the party that is pro civil rights, pro minorities, and such. The question is, are they? I don't think that they have succeeded at all in terms of all their promises. Since the Democrats, and I agree with you, Barrett, that since the 60s, they have managed to capture the minority grouping and the voting because they saw that minority voting was much more profitable for them to achieve power than it is to actually pursue on values. But since the 60s, they in fact have been very bad for minorities of all shapes and sizes, and it's a shame. If you look at Detroit, for example, and the breakup of the family, horrific things have been happening there. Whereas the Republicans, by contrast, have been pushing for family and for the minority rights, and generally speaking. And I think that it's not a very good record. So yes, Barrett, you're right that the Democrats have pushed themselves into the Democratic Party, into the minority world, such that they are perceived to be pro-minority. But the question is, have they done anything good for the minority community? It's been what? It's been more than 60
Like,
years now.
All right, Barrett.
yeah, all I can
I
say
think that's
is,
excuse me, that's a big problem.
We got
And
to
if
wrap.
they have,
We got to wrap,
after all
Barrett.
these 60 years, they've not achieved so little,
let me just
then
chime in
I
real
don't
quick
know
then. I'll
why
be
you
very
would
quick
pursue
with
them.
this.
We're going to
Why
let
would you
you.
back them?
All I
So,
can say
Barrett, we're
is
going to let
there's
you
been one
take us
black
out.
president in the history of America. That president was Barack Obama. When it comes to diversity of cabinets and diversity of elected officials, they're people of color, they're all Democrats. The Democrats, we could say they could do more, but when it talks about like advancing minorities and putting people in positions of power and advocating for voting rights, like they were doing last week, the Democrats far exceed what the Republicans have even attempted to do. And that's just objective. That's just how it is.
All right, I got to go,
Okay,
gentlemen.
if
I
you,
thank you for
okay.
your time. It was a hot debate. I wish we had more time for you, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we don't. Until next time.